Welcome to Town Hall 76, Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. We've made it. And we only have, one variant threatening us. So that's great. Birds out all those shots. But God, they're going to be useless. Anyways, no. My name's John Baston. I am the CEO and one of the founders of the Best Innovation Group. And with me, as always, is the lovely and presentable the adorable Mike Lawson, creator and host of CU Broadcast. Hey, Mike.
Yes, I'm like a chia pet. I'm very adorable.
So, I think so.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, I do. Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Did you know we have sponsors for this show?
I do, and they're pretty darn good as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll go first.
Okay.
CUNA Council. So I actually just signed up for a gig with CUNA Council. It's coming up. I'm going to do the HR gig. I think that's a council I haven't spoke at a lot, but they were like, "Well, how do you think technology plays in HR?" I said, "You kidding? Technology is people and HR is people. It's the most important thing." And they were great to talk to. So I think I'm going to go and do something with them, hopefully, and excited about that coming up. I think it's in April.
Wow.
And then, the rest of them are still getting ready to cook along, and they've got a lot of big plans for next year. But if you're part of, credit union, and it is that you want to meet people, because the most important thing about credit unions is that we collaborate, and that collaboration is our superpower, and you need people to collaborate with. Did you know that you can't, turns out that, collaboration is a team sport, Mike. It's not like wrestling where it's just like one person. And so in order to collaborate, you need more than one person. And that's what I learned. And so with that in mind, you want to go and collaborate, you can talk to the people at CUNA. Hey, Mike, what about Correlation?
They are one of the finest core processing systems around. No offense, John, to the folks that you guys do a heck of a job as well. So their Keystone, I mean, they are making waves, obviously, for the last decade now. My gosh, how time flies with those folks, and what a great success story they are. I mean, creating a core system from scratch, basically, and bringing it up and helping out many, many, many folks out throughout the credit union industry. So the folks at Correlation are, fantastic folks to work with. Not only have great technology, but their client service is second to none as well. So they just do a fine job when it comes to core processing solutions, and it's all open, so you can almost plug and play with third-party vendors into their system. So that helps out a lot, giving credit unions a lot of freedom to choose who they want to work with and do it in a very easy manner. So if you guys need more information on Correlation, go to correlationinc.com and you'll find all the information right there in front of you.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about passwords?
I cannot stand them because I'm always forgetting them.
How many do you think you have? How many in total do you?
I probably have like a dozen, and I can't remember any of them.
But how many do you think how many sites do you have that you have connection to where you've had to put in a password?
A lot.
Average person, average number, 742.
What?
That's true. You can look it up. I didn't make that up at all. I just said it. If I say it, it's true. Wow. You can look it up. 742 different sites. Starts with Hulu and ends with your Walgreens, or what was the one you went to? Scripps. One of those sites, right?
Yes.
What if
I'm
you
always
could get
forgetting
rid of all your passwords, Mike? What if you could get rid of? Have you ever called into a call center, Mike?
I have.
Have you been asked 20 questions about?
I have. I feel like I'm being interrogated. Yes.
Right. Like, hey, what was the last thing you bought? Do they not know that we share those accounts with our wives? I got no idea. Refresh and see what's there now. I don't know.
Exactly.
She's out.
Oh, another order from Amazon. Yeah.
Or wow, Nordy's, something like that. So by the way, I was going to talk to you about this. Would you like to go looting with me? I bought a boatload of balaclavas. I thought we could take the whole group from the CU Town Hall. We could just hit a Best Buy or something. That seems to be the gig right now, right? So
I think Chris Odie would be up for that. He's Odie. He's a big looter.
I assume Odie's already got a group. I assume. But anyways, if you were using Member Pass and you were looting, it'd be harder to find you because
that's true.
Footprints when you were going to sell it. Because you know what Member Pass is? It's the most futuristic, it's the most advanced way for you to displace your passwords, to check with the real source of you. So imagine this. You're sitting at home, Mike. Yeah, I want you to just, sit at home. Pretend you're sitting at home.
I'm standing right now, but
you're watching football.
Yes.
Pretend you're watching the football.
Okay.
Got your phone nearby?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay. All right. So I'll be your phone.
All right.
Okay. You look at your phone. No, you don't answer it. Come on, man. This is 2021. You look at it.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I'll try again. Let's try this again. Come on, work with me.
Can you text me?
Pick up your phone.
I got it right here.
Okay, now on there it says, hey, someone's trying to log into your, San Diego credit union account. But are you trying to log into your San Diego credit union right now?
Not right now, but I have Uber Eats giving me another offer.
So there's two buttons. One says yes, it's me, and the second one says no, it's not me. So you say no, it's not me, and you go back to your football game. Now,
thank you.
If they had your password, would you know while you were watching your football game? See, that's checking with the source, Mike. That's what MemberPass is all about. Go check out MemberPass. It's supported by Bonify. You can go to Bonify and see everything. It's really picking up. A lot of people are using it because it's the fastest way to verify somebody, and it's also the most secure. Hey, let me tell you about CU Broadcast.
Put my phone away.
If you are in the gradient community and you need to know stuff, I know a place you could go. There is so much stuff, more stuff than you could ever imagine on cubroadcast.com. Just go to CU Broadcast, sign up. I believe it's only $20.99 per month. I signed up. I got a deal. I love that new show they have. What's it called? Stranger Things. I think I might have your logo confused with someone else.
Oh,
you do show movies on CU Broadcast, right?
I have on occasion. I have, yes.
Okay, so yeah, just go.
I had a really
good
blooper reel one year. Ann was on that. That was a lot of fun.
So many cool shows. House of Cards. So many cool shows on the CU Broadcast.
Yes, exactly.
Well worth it.
Now I'm going to get sued for copyright infringement. So
well, that's your fault. And finally, I'll let you take the last one, and we'll get rolling.
BIG, Best Innovation Group, doing some big stuff in the industry, obviously. And the first thing that comes to my mind, John, is your voice banking, is Five. So, and you guys have just knocked it out of the park with that particular product, because that's where we're going, voice, and we're already there actually. So you guys are always ahead of the curve when it comes to financial technology. And thank you for being there for us, John. We really appreciate that.
Well, we're super excited about what's coming up for 2022.
Oh,
so look who we have. Look at this. Look at this special guest here. First of all, the last time I talked to John Jankulis, he was a hobo in the streets, and now he's president in Nimbus of the Nimbus QSO. And I'm proud of him for pulling himself up by his bootstraps, getting out of that alley. I think he collected enough cans, and they made him in charge. So congratulations, John. We're loving having you back with us.
Yes, I have been collecting and making deposits, and life is good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I love your new digs. Way better than that dumpster that was out, behind that credit union. But if you're going to be in a dumpster, the credit union dumpster is a good one. So that was good. Ann Legg, founder of Thrive Strategic Services. Ann, how are you?
Fantastic. Very much. So happy to be here. It's been a while. And I have to say, you know what? Last time we chatted, I think I just come off of Kilimanjaro. So a lot of things have happened since then.
Yeah, I think that was true. I remember you talking about, hey, I got to go climb a mountain. And I said, well, maybe you could use some of that money for John. He lives in a dumpster. And you were like, I got no time for his crap. And so,
And you have to climb another mountain and do a fundraiser for me, please.
Yeah. The John Jankulis, help him move out of the dumpster. That's just a background. That if he turns it off, it's a dumpster.
Yep.
And then I want you to notice that the next guy's background on the screen is green. There's a reason for that, because if you're into cannabis, and I'm not just talking about smoking it, I'm talking about eating it. I'm talking about, whatever you want to do with cannabis, managing principal partner of 420 Advisors. It's always 420 somewhere. That's what Glenn likes to tell me.
John, if you ever want to trade dumpster for cannabis jokes, I'd be more than happy to swap with you.
And that's why his background's green, because there's no one on the planet that knows more about cannabis.
Are you thinking he's new material? I don't get
it. Glenn is the master of all cannabis. He's helped so many cannabis companies hook up with credit unions and sell their cannabis to their members. It's increased loans. It's increased deposits. It's brilliant. It was a brilliant business plan. I'm proud of you, Glenn.
Wait a minute. Credit unions selling cannabis to their members? Is that
only in Atlanta business? Where Glenn is. Apparently it's only legal there. Yeah.
Wow.
You got to go for new revenue streams, Michael.
That's true.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Hey, you're going to give them a free box of checks? They don't even know what that is. But if you give them a free box of chocolate, they're pretty happy, man.
And they're coming back for sure.
They're coming back. They're like, that chocolate seemed a little, special. especially if you put caffeine and cannabis in it, then they're stuck. That's what Odie taught me.
Oh my, wow.
Wow. So there you go.
All righty.
So Glenn, what do we talk? We gathered this esteemed group of people. I'm certain that there must be some reason, but to get John out of the dumpster was not trivial. Talk to me.
As we like to call it, the Getting the Band Back Together episode, because how many years has this been that we've been doing these? Was 5 or 6 years we've done the year end, and I think we're going to try to consolidate the two, both the recap of the biggest events of the prior year and then the predictions for the coming year.
Yeah.
So I think
all in 45 minutes.
Rattle them all off. It'd have to be a lightning round or several lightning rounds.
Yeah, I'm glad we got everybody back together because I believe most of these people owe me money. I said it would hit 65,000, and it did. Now it may have taken a few years, but it hit. Bitcoin hit 65,000. So
yeah, we didn't stay within what period of time, did we?
No, you didn't say that. We did not. We
didn't talk about the roller coaster that was going with it as well. No.
Yeah, exactly. And Ethereum up to 4,400. So, and now the stock market has crashed, and now everyone's running their money to crypto, and now Canadians are embracing crypto. I believe all of you owe me at least $1 or $2, or some of those little McDonald's Monopoly coupons. I love those. Someday
I thought you were for Chick-fil-A. I thought it was payment in Chick-fil-A.
No. The Chick-fil-A, I had to abandon my Chick-fil-A habit because I found out that their card, their little thing, they are making a lot of money on that as a racket right there. You think about like all the people you have, minimum is $25 to put in the thing. And that's, 3 Chick-fil-A visits. If you don't make them, it sits in there and they're making money. So I don't like that. We need to have some sort of credit union gift card like that sits on top of that. Anyways, Glenn, talk to me. What's our year at events? Tell me what we're doing.
Well, who wants to go first? I've got a list. I could go all day if we want.
You go first, Glenn.
You want me to go first? Okay, so the big stories of 2021. We could go in a bunch of different directions, but I've got the first one on the list is the supply chain snafu, or whatever you want to call it, which, to tie it as closely as we can to the credit union space. I think the best place that it really, comes home to roost in the credit union world is around autos, not just new cars, which are harder to find to buy, and therefore you've got fewer new car sales, but also used cars, which are suddenly significantly more expensive, primarily because people can't find the new cars to buy. So
let's also tag on that chip shortage just to throw two big stories together, just to save time. Let's just squish them together because you're right. That's just a kerfuffle. Good
point. Yeah, I mean, it is the chips. And then to take it even further, we all also heard that, and I'm not sure how far this has kind of come home to roost yet, but those chips are the same things that actually come into play on credit card reissuance or debit card reissuance. And at some point, that's going to be an issue as well.
So let me jump in on that. So one thing I think it would be a really good, I'm going to put this article here into the everyone chat. So there you go. I've always thought a good barometer of supply chain and basically GDP, that sort of thing, is Black Friday. I know a lot of people look at that. So let's see what happened. Black Friday was a week ago? So it says, this is a New York Times article posted, I think 2 days ago. Black Friday weekend was a success, but reflected challenges in their supply chain and the prevalence of early deals in October. Thank you, Walmart. They said foot traffic soared about 48% from last year, though remained down 28%. So they're still talking about people being worried about going out. The peak in time store was 1 to 3, interestingly enough. And customers spent about $8.9 billion online on Black Friday, slightly less than 2020, and $1 billion on Thanksgiving, which was on par with last year. So, I mean, it's looking like the supply, to me, that's basically saying that now it could have been a way better if, there were more PS5s on the shelf or more Quest 2s, some of the other stuff on the shelf. But that seems like from a retail perspective, and this is, what I've heard, and maybe you guys can challenge that and say, no, I've heard different, but that Black Friday was at least a moderate success.
I think moderate's the right word. By the way, I just saw David Odell weighed in saying he's already having a hard time getting debit card replacement stock.
Wow, so you limit the number of reissues. So
that's one of the challenges. Is, I mean, if anybody has a mass reissue program, that's where it really gets tricky. But for anybody who obviously has to have an emergency reissue, it's kind of funny to have to worry.
Well, but you know, X amount of cards expire every month.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Alan was talking about 5.9% increase in sales, inflation, maybe flat. I could see that. But the question is this: is that interchange makes up a lot of all of our income, right? And so between now and Christmas, will this supply chain shortage not yield? And Alan, I would throw this at you as the CEO there at True West, but do you believe that you're going to have a flat Christmas in terms of, especially if you can't get debit cards and credit cards to give to people, but do you think that's a possibility of a flat Christmas in terms of the interchange? See where he's at, if I can convince him to
well, the other factor,
a good December.
I'd love to also factor into how does this going to level out too, right? Because they're saying something like the average wait for some of the items that are still hanging out in our ports is something like 6 to 8 weeks. And you wonder, okay, if we push that forward and then we level out that bell curve of the overall pent up demand. So does that mean we're going to be seeing just consistent activity going on until February? So, I mean, I'd love to have Alan step in and give us a little bit of feedback on that.
Well, I don't think he can because he's not looking here. But I would say we actually had some experts on that we were talking to that about. Oh, there he is. Okay. Go ahead, Alan.
I don't have any magic crystal ball, but my expectation is it'll be a good December. I mean, everybody in the credit union movement has such high core deposits. That money's eventually you would expect to be spent, and so I think there's a lot of dry powder out there for the consumer.
I think it's really, go ahead, John, sorry.
Well, I'm with Alan. I think our members have money and they're going to spend it. They may be paying more based on some of the supply being limited. But I was just reading a survey this morning that the forecast is deep into next year, supply chain disruption. You know, this was a CEO survey and saying we expect it to last all the way into next year.
Yeah, I read. That's what I was about to say. I was going to expand on that. It's because of the just-in-time manufacturing. So, like, this got broken in a way that is not. It's like once a piece of it broke, the dominoes all tumbled. There's no way. There's no inventory for certain things, and other things got reused, and it just creates a big mess.
I think there's so much disruption. It's very difficult to compare to past time periods as well. I mean, people were kind of getting the message that they had to start ordering earlier. So it's difficult to just take this Black Friday and last Black Friday and compare them. Last Black Friday was already strange because nobody's going to the stores. And now you've got people who probably shopped even earlier. One of my favorite headlines recently was in the Wall Street Journal, talk about bizarre context. I think it was Dick's Sporting Goods reports that in-store sales is eating into their e-commerce. Well, wait a second. I mean, e-commerce was way up because no one could shop last year. I mean, everything's relative.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, once it all shakes out, I think we can go back and take no pun intended, take inventory, sometime in January and see how the whole season played out.
Well,
how does this next round of viruses breaking out all over the globe impact people being able to go back to work with the factory, to start the supply chain moving again? So, yeah, I think that's part of that forecast saying it's not going to be right away.
Yeah, so not like that.
Start and stop.
Yeah, well, I think we have learned that this virus, we have to learn to live with this variant thing. We're not going to catch up to it. So this is with us to stay, kind of like a flu season, and we're going to have to, figure that out. But I want to throw my next topic out there, and I'm going to throw it at you, John, because this is a really good subject. So I feel like one of the big stories of this year was, big tech, particularly Facebook, all the things that happened with Facebook. So, I feel like they skated. They changed their name to Meta. They're focusing in on this, on the virtual world, which is probably a pretty smart plan because I do think that's the future of this whole thing. But do you think, how does that change things? And, did Amazon and all these guys kind of skate on this, and we're going to see more of the same? We haven't really made any changes that's affected privacy or in terms of what we're trying to do and all those sorts of things. So that was something interesting to me as well.
Wait for it. Boom. Right. It's going to come. Data being leveraged and used so much that there's also problems with that and abuses of that. And I think the regulators are getting ready to move. and start to lean in. And you can count on that. So
You think that day's coming? Okay.
I would say, yeah, the red burden coming from that is going to come. So, be prepared for it. Make sure you got people on your team to manage that.
Okay. Anybody else? Glenn, big tech lover that you are. I know Glenn he's so pro big tech. Go ahead, Glenn.
It just plays into everything else. I mean, you got things like, another story that I had on my list, speaking of big tech, was Google backing off of their checking offer, which
Right.
I always, that's the way the headline tends to be written. I always kind of add to backed off of it for now.
See, I
They've
was
run at it
thinking
a couple times. I wouldn't be surprised if they just find a different angle and come at it again in another 12 to 18 months.
So I was thinking about a conversation that we had, you and I, about that. And I kind of there was a metaphor swirling in my mind. I think I found it. So we live in this big property here, and there's this, if I look out the window here, there's a big giant fence that goes on for an acre or two. And John could probably resonate with this. And coyotes will occasionally sort of come in. And then they go away because of the coyote. But I know for a fact they'll be back. I think that the Google coyote kind of sauntered in and looked around and went, there ain't enough alpacas to eat here. I'm going to go back out and I'll come back in, with my buddies or something along those lines.
Whether it's coming back with their buddies or coming back when people are a little bit less hyper alert and watching for them.
But I am thinking that's certainly plays into it. The Google, Amazon, Facebook, and I'll say it again. I'm surprised it didn't make it, but I'll throw it in my prediction. At some point, Amazon's going to start accepting cryptocurrency. It will happen. And when it does, it's going to create yet another fracturing of our DDA accounts where people are going to start there's going to be some sort of either Amazon crypto of its own, a conversion, a trade, a coin swap, something along those lines. And if we're ill prepared for it, it's going to be, because average person is spending somewhere between $600 and $800 a month at Amazon. That's ridiculous. And so just as a test, maybe everybody who's on the call, maybe pop into the chat there and just put how much money you think your family spends on Amazon per month. I'd just love to see those numbers fly by.
Yeah, and not on Black Friday. Just
normal throughout the year. You can do, it's all a bunch of finance people. I'm sure they can all 2.4 million from Mike.
That's weekly. Yeah. That's weekly.
That's weekly. Yeah, that's about the amount I spend on boxes. 400 for David L, 700 for Alan.
Yeah, mine are all on supplements, John, to stay younger. When I'm in the dumpster, I have some food to eat. I just use supplements, so that's what that.
Yeah. I got you. Well, they also have to place. Ann says 200. I don't believe that.
My kid has flown the nest, so we're down a little bit. She's got her own account. She has to pay for now.
But yeah, that $500 round, somewhere between that $200 and $500 is pretty significant for Mike Kelly, 650 on AWS. That's low, Mike. You should be happy. The other day, my friend called me freaking out. He got a $90,000 AWS bill.
What?
And what had happened is hackers had used an API backdoor to come in and set up a Bitcoin mining machine at the highest level. Every minute it ran to cost $300 or something.
Right.
And he called me and I tracked it down and I convinced Amazon to not charge him $90,000. So they were nice about it, but well, okay. What's the next one, Glenn? We talked about big tech. John says it's all going to get broken up. So I'm just going to start moving my accounts now.
Actually,
what's next?
I've got one.
Oh,
I'd like to talk about how, although it's been happening a lot, I think this year was a crazy year for ransomware. And let me be super clear about this.
That was number one on my list, Ann. Oh my gosh.
I knew it. I was just peeking over and looking at your list. Because let's talk about this for a second. When, the Colonial Pipeline went down, what it did was get us to all think about that really important pieces to our infrastructure. And I'm just going to take, that it feels like a chapter out of that book, Ghost Fleet. Remember that? That was Singer and Cole. I think, John, you might have had them at AXF one of the years, but it's basically the whole premise that it starts going crazy. Once you start taking down oil and hospitals and all these other things, that's the beginning of the chaos. Not going super dark, although that did sound super dark, but that was an interesting one. That one impacted and talked about our vulnerabilities, talked about the importance of what we need to do about ransomware and how do we handle it. I think that one brought it really to the forefront. And I don't know, Lawson, you want to add your thoughts to that since it was on your list?
Yeah, when it hit Scripps, that affected us personally because that's our healthcare provider. And cancel appointments, and there were, obviously thousands of appointments that were canceled, surgeries that were canceled. I mean, again, it shows you how vulnerable we are when it comes to this stuff. And the other thing that kind of blew me away was ransomware insurance. That was the other thing that I was just astounded by. So it's, our credit union is going to have to get ransomware insurance if they do this type of stuff. Or, I mean, I'm always trying to connect the dots to credit unions and how this will relate to it. Again, it just shows, like Ann said, the vulnerability of what's out there right now. And it's just mind blowing. So yeah,
we just recently had
not scripts, was that how long it took them to come back up and restore services. It was
forever. Yeah.
So we just had Roger Grimes on not too long ago. We were talking about the PAX incident, which was kind of similar in a way, in that, there's still a concern that actual Chinese, the hardware from China has been modified, although no one's ever sort of proven it. But the ransomware, so I'll give you my take on it, and you're not going to like it. We are in the Napster stage of ransomware. What came after Napster?
Apple Music.
That's right, iTunes, right? And it was a far better process. We're seeing them organized. The only real powerful thing that I've been seeing is, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, but slowly they've been catching a lot of these individuals. But I kind of view that as like spiders. So I don't know if you ever heard the story about spiders, but every time you kill a spider, you make the species stronger, because only the dumb ones are around where you can see them. So it's just a Darwin thing. Well, only the dumb ones come out, and so you're increasing the species. And I think we're in a similar spot here, that because what Roger was pointing out is it's become a business hand. They have a PR person, they have people that are dealing with the bank side of it, and it's interesting. It's interesting. The thing that was actually more interesting to me this year, and that's sort of side related to that, was the Solarwinds Act.
Yes.
Solarwinds, because that represents a very smart way of going about it. So you don't try to break into the bank. You hide in a trash can that some janitor pulls in, and kind of that Trojan. And there were many Ukrainians that were affected by the Solarwinds issue. I think there's going to be more of that we haven't found, for one thing. And by the way, as America, we're just as guilty of sort of this state-sponsored sort of stuff. And that is, there's ransomware as a service now. That's great.
I just did an interview with Digital Defense, and they were telling me about ransomware as a service.
That's good, because it's been hard to set up. You think they'll have it on Azure and AWS? Probably. It's already being used for that, so why not?
I was going to layer on to something, again, following up on the conversation with Roger Grimes. We talked about PAX, which again is more of a vulnerability and or a very suspicious way that data transmissions seem to be taking place. But I finally saw my first PAX terminal, at least once I started looking for them.
Oh, really?
In California, as a matter of fact. I was out there at Thanksgiving time, and I just happened to be noticing, as I was checking out of a seafood place, kind of a place. This sounds like an oxymoron, a really kind of rustic, old, grimy place in Malibu, which don't really go together in my mind, called the Real Inn. Really great seafood place.
Chris knows it.
Glenn, is this an annual pilgrimage that you make this time of year out to the beach? I think I'm remembering this.
It is. We missed the 1 year for the pandemic last year, but my wife's family gets together for Thanksgiving, and the Friday night after, we go to the Real Inn.
You go hunting for ATMs?
When I was checking out, they had a PAX terminal, which just really kind of caught me off guard. And I always feel I'm like, I hate to do this, but I'm just kind of curious because this is my business. Have you heard about any problem with these terminals? And the guy was like, no, in fact, I've been told they're the best terminals out there. So, so the word isn't getting out that there's even this issue out there. And again, and we talked about this on the call with Roger too. There's a belief that a lot of the plausible deniability kind of excuse that PAX tried to come up with is, well, they're all mobile, remote, wireless terminals, and therefore they have different data packets because of geolocation, et cetera, et cetera. This thing was hardwired. It wasn't moving anywhere. It was right there at the checkout counter. They didn't take the point of sale, terminal to your table, anything like that. It was order at the counter. They called, get your food. But it was interesting because I think he suspected I was trying to sell him something. So he didn't seem to really want to engage in the conversation. But they have a
To
terminal.
be fair, Glenn, everybody thinks that who
awareness
meets.
there was any
So
issue, they're just rolling with it.
that's normal for you, Glenn.
I think
That's
Chris
kind of
used that.
Were you
at
wearing a
terminal.
plaid jacket again? Because I've talked to you about that plaid thing. That just looks so salesman.
Herb Tarlick, yeah.
Yeah,
The,
Herb, yeah.
But no, just like Stickley on Security had said, that was their speculation, was that, the vast majority of people with these terminals are probably never, unless they've got, a provider like FIS that came to them and said, hey, we got to swap you out. They're probably none the wiser, or not going to really risk the disruption during the holiday season.
So before we leave this subject, I'm going to throw this at John, only because I just, want him to have to talk about it a little bit. But John, one of the concerns that we all have is, and SolarWinds really brought this to light, is our partners, right? And so how do you, as working with Nimbus and the QSO, how do you go about sort of mitigating that threat of, you've got all these partners it takes to really build up a core system. A core system is not just like a bunch of lines of code, and, it's a lot of stuff. And so how is it that you mitigate that? It just seems like a ridiculously hard task.
Well, I'm not an engineering person, as you know, but I can tell you that it's one of the things that keeps us up at night, and that we're doing all the vulnerability testing that you would expect, bringing in the right partners to keep banging on us, making sure that, we've got it tight, But it's like everyone, just like when I was the CEO of Partners, it's one of those things that you're ever vigilant in, and you better be testing and pressing yourself harder than what you think, the bad guys are going to do, and learn from those vulnerabilities, and, patch and work and get better. And somewhere in there too, it is in your partners picking that they're like-minded too, with their care about security. And it's just it's an ongoing dialogue. I was listening to the conversation and thinking about, there is a little bit of a break in here. It used to be, if there was an attack and if you were the subject of that was like, oh my God, that was terrible for your brand. I think at least it's turned a little bit, saying, hey, look, it happens to everybody. It's happened to the United States government. So how are you at recovery? And so that's another big part of the playbook too, is saying, if it happens and when it happens, what is your playbook? How transparent are you? How quickly can you get your organization back on its feet? I think is another big piece of the puzzle.
I love it. I got a cool feature for you, John. Here's my feature. So Robinhood was hacked, Glenn, 2 weeks ago?
That was recently, yeah.
Yeah, they were breached. So how hard in Nimbus would it be to find everybody that's used Robinhood?
Would not be hard.
So why wouldn't, as a credit union, we send all of the people that are using that and just go, hey, not sure if you knew this, but we see you're a Robinhood user and they were breached. And if you happen to use, I don't know, the same password for Robinhood as you used for our home banking, we really, really appreciate it if you would change that. And by the way, we'll give you a free, what's the name of that? The person protector. What's the one that Stickley's always hawking on Sunday? What's the name of that company? It's a huge company, but they protect. What's it, Glenn? LifeLock. That's it. He's always on LifeLock, like talking to Jay Leno. He's always. Have you seen him on Sunday? It's Stickley's on every Sunday on a super long.
Yeah, he did it with Jay
Leno, other creepy people. It's weird.
Do we know how many households have LifeLock? Because I do, and I get all those alerts too that tell me, hey, heads up. That'd be interesting to know who has that kind of.
But I think that would be a value. I would appreciate that from the. I mean, they know if I use that service, and also it's a little bit of self-protection.
Well, I'd like to take it one step further and say, hey, if you're on Robinhood and you also might be getting stimulus checks, can we have a conversation? Because let's help you out there a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
That would be even a fantastic subset of that data too.
Yeah, I see opportunity in these breaches to help protect ourselves, and two, to provide the service. I mean, somebody might not even remember they set up a Robinhood account. I've discovered a few accounts that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that night. It was, the peanut butter whiskey's different, and yeah, that's how that ended. So,
and I don't remember all my 728 passwords, so I better check.
But John, you're such an upbeat guy too. It hadn't really occurred to that silver lining that your brand is not quite as at risk as it was a year ago if you wind up a victim, as long as it's
true.
Proven that you haven't had some ridiculous open door that you've left behind or something like that.
But I think it's also that point about being prepared for, you hope it doesn't, but when should it happen to you, make sure you are prepared, make sure you have that recovery, make sure you have that reaction, make sure you have that transparency. Because I think that's the part that gets most brands down. And we do see it in credit unions, is to say, oh, well, it's not going to happen, we're good. Hey, you've got to prepare for these situations. If anything that we have learned in the last 2 years.
You mean kind of like having a plan ready in case you can't come to the office for a while or something like that?
Something like that.
And it shouldn't be use your cell phone. I'm just saying.
I heard if you buy Nimbus, you get a big red button that goes in the CEO's office. And then if something should happen, you press it. And when you do, like, a lights, the alerts, and like it plays the red alert from Star Trek, and the room's shut down and lock up. That's what I heard.
John, there's a thread here to keep pulling on, which is, do you think we're going to have more pandemics and more waves? Do you think we're going to have more severe weather events, fires? Do you think we're going to have more ransomware? Do you think it's going to be a very volatile business environment? So that means our risk management teams, they're on another level now. The playbooks that they have need to be worked, right? And actually do the drills and the preparation on that. I'm just struck by the severity and the frequency of events that are coming at credit unions again and again and again. You know, I just know that when I was at Partners, it was like, you'd have 4 or 5 major events going on at one time. We'd have fires in California, we'd have hurricane in Florida, and then you have, the pandemic hitting at the same time. You would have vintages of these kinds of, waves rolling through your loan portfolio kind of impacts. And it's just different. It's just dynamic now.
I agree.
Risk capability. You've got to be able to risk management has to be a capability within your organization. It's got to be something.
It's got to be, it's a discipline, but also I think it may be beyond something that we can we have to partner, I think, in order to succeed there, because too much of it is collaborative. Right now, it's like the old days, when people used to cross the country, and like, Glenn would get in the wagon and with his 10 family members, and 3 of them might make it to, for his gold rush in California. But
and then they had all the cannabis.
But then as humans, we eventually figured out we could all hop in a bunch of stagecoaches, and when the Indians came, we could circle up. And I think that's where we're at with risk. I think not only does risk have to evolve in terms of the discipline, but as John is fond of saying, we have to out-partner everyone else. Because so much of mitigation comes from being collaborative. If the bad guys start somewhere, they don't just sort of pick us usually as the first choice. Now, we talked about this earlier, but good news is we don't have like a bunch of Gucci purses out front looking at you, Ann, for credit union looting. But this looting thing is another kind of interesting concept. That how do you get 80 people? Like, do I go on Reddit and go, hey, everybody, let's go looting? And 80 people show up and hit a Nordstrom's and then all run out. And we've seen it, like 6 times? And then apparently they ran out of stuff, and they're like, well, we're going to need more looting materials. Well, where should we go? We should loot a Home Depot. We need hammers and saws and stuff. And so they looted a Home Depot. And this is happening in Michigan. Where is this being set up? Is this the dark web? I'm fascinated by
it. It's like flash mobs. It's like flash mobs gone really bad.
But the thing is like, I'm going to hire whoever it is that sets this up, because, man, that person is a really good collaborator. Like, that's a team player right there. And he's also got, or he or she's got a lot of charisma, because you can, how do you what kind of podcast are you listening to or whatever, where, what'd be a good idea, honey? Oh, what? I'm going to go out looting Saturday night. I'm going to head to Best Buy with those other people. Do you have a balaclava? I didn't even know what a balaclava was. And I bought some.
Well, John, we set them up here in my office. I have everybody come in here.
They get the balaclavas and leave. But no, seriously, that is an interesting breakdown of our social, mechanism there. And it certainly speaks to sort of a class issue to some extent. But I'm just wondering how it is you get 80 people to break the law at once.
Okay, I don't know. Let's talk about capital insurrection. I went there. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of people rallying around passion points. And what I would love to see is that people rally around how awesome credit unions are and at what they are doing in their community to totally flip and spin this conversation back to some really important things. Because, credit unions have been in there. They've been saving small businesses. They've been able to give loans. They have been doing some amazing things in this world. And I'd love to see that potential. How do you rally around and get the message out? So there was my spin.
So what you're saying is we need to learn from the looters how they're doing it so that we can use the same tactics. Got it.
But definitely on the happy side of that contingent, definitely with the white hat.
Right.
Let's keep it on the legal side. Yes.
Kind of the half happy, half but twisting a little bit back. And John, this is going to sound like it's a pure setup for you in a positive way and kind of a plug for Nimbus. And I swear this was not coordinated in advance. But one of the things that I saw, which kind of ties to what you're saying, Ann, is I wrote an article about this for CUNA, the extent to which the credit union model is really proving itself out. But unfortunately, it's not the credit unions that are actually getting the benefit of it. I think that the neobanks, the way they're going after these very targeted subsegments, are really, that's field of membership. It's exactly what credit unions were built to do way back in time. And that's where Nimbus, I think, John, on the presentation I saw you do at Venture Tech, the ability for you to stand up a new, small, digital bank within a bank with those types of segment type plays, I think is exactly the kind of thing that we need to look to do. I thought again, just the other day with the whole story about, the Bitcoin folks trying to take a DAO approach rather to buying the US Constitution in that auction and trying to set it up, didn't matter how much money you put in, everybody got one vote. That's a credit union. Who's going to own it, which again creates some other problems. I know I had that problem when I was on a board of a cooperative and we wanted to raise money to build out a new business, a new location. Well, who do we go after? Well, there's nobody. It's a cooperative. And, that's why the National Cooperative Bank exists, because no one else knows how to deal with it. So, the model is proving itself. We've got to make sure that the credit unions are the ones that actually see the benefits of it.
Yeah. Glenn, thanks for the shout out for the work that we did at Venture Tech. But I think that is, that's credit union's birthright, right? To look at somebody and say, hey, I see you, I see your needs, let me respond to what your needs are. And I think we're moving away. We're watching fintechs saying, you know what, locality, geography is not what rules now. It is digital access that is actually very like a rifle shot. You see me, you know exactly what I need. Robin, we talked about them as a great example. But that's something that we need to start adding to our playbook as we start doing our forecasts going forward. It's so important that we do that. And Ann, I know you are a data geek, and just think about how you can really parse and think about, I see you, I know what your need is, and I'm delivering on that. I think that's we can run many brands as credit unions at one time, but really hit those needs through those kind of niches. So
yeah, 100%, John. And I want to add to that because, as I look at it, the credit union competitive advantage is really what people have heard me say is the credit union hug, right? We're mission-based. We've always had it in our heart. We know what we're doing. But now, if we can gather that data and if we can partner like we do as a cooperative, that's the hug. So it's the heart and the head come together as the hug. That can be, if we leverage it, a huge competitive advantage because a fintech is not mission-based. We are. So there's a lot of opportunity in there. And because we do play nice and we do like to get in our sandbox and we do like to, as John said, get everybody together, we have, and just like the technology you were talking about, John, we do have some incredible opportunity if we can figure it out.
Yeah,
I find it interesting though that we spent the last 20 years going away from that, right?
Oh.
Let's rename the credit union FinTech Max. That's what we'll call ourselves, or FinMaxra. And we all wanted to escape those charters because they felt limiting. They prevented partnerships. There were times when you wanted to work with someone and they just could not figure out when they would, without a QSO involved, apply those services. I think we see the value of it now. And I absolutely 1,000,000% agree that the reason I joined the credit, I tell this story often, is because I was a teacher. I filled out the forms wrong. I didn't get paid over summer and I didn't get paid over Christmas. And Suncoast had summer skips. For teachers, specifically for Hillsborough County school teachers. You look at Chime and what Chime's really pushing, which is now they're not only onto that, not only onto the idea of the giving your pay a little bit early, but the same day pay has become something that's been really important, and I think it's going to push things out the door. Because same day pay is, it's the equivalent of what I used to do. And as a matter of fact, I just hooked up with some friends from Germany, some guys who went to high school with me. And we were talking about our first jobs, which was you didn't have to sign up or anything. You just went down to the commissary, you stood in line. When you got to the front of the line, you got the bag groceries and you got whatever tip the person gave to you. I think that's fascinating. So just to throw another thing out there, just to change the subject for, I don't want to get this one out because I'm really interested in all of your responses, but I feel like this year has been the year that crypto was finally taken seriously by the folks, by financial institutions. And by that, what I mean is that we've seen where organizations are finally understanding. I put out a little meme. I said, not understanding crypto and working at a credit union is kind of like not understanding streaming and working at Blockbuster, right? We've been doing a ton of surveying, on how much money is going out to the Coinbase, to Gemini, and those numbers are getting bigger and bigger. And so that's just another pitch off that. But here's the thing. What's the real meaning of this? I love when John says, we see you. So what are we seeing out of that? Here's what I think I see. I think this generation, and by the way, it's not just that generation, but this group of people doesn't know any other way to build wealth. I think that's the message, at least in an expedited manner.
Yeah. Well, part of wealth is your work. I think what we're seeing, John, is just the gig worker is just coming on fire. And we're going to see it when a gig worker makes a decision, I'm going to log in and work in this call center, or I'm going to go get in my car and drive, because there's surge wages that are coming my way because workforce is getting tighter and trained people. And I gig 3 or 4 different ways, and then back to your cryptocurrency, and I get paid same day through that kind of currency. Like that all that conversion of that it's coming at us really fast.
Well, and add into that globalization, right?
On the airport the other day.
The globalization part of it, from your perspective, John, you can be paid now from someone, in Germany or in Spain or anywhere. Whereas before, getting paid to do that work here would have been ridiculously hard. Can you imagine, calling up the grain gun, listen, got a wire coming from Spain. Terrorist. No. I just did this work. I built a PowerPoint for some people in Spain. You mean for terrorists in Spain? No, I don't. They weren't on the OFAC list. It was all good, And so this circumvention of the current money stream that everyone has found seems like it's A, pointing out a flaw. B, what we've seen is, this is interesting. When we look at the outbound, that money's going out, but it's not coming back in the same rate. So less than half of it's coming back at you. So if they do make money on it, so our next move right now is we're working on taking the Bitcoin market and applying that to 2020, because we think it might be an ALCO topic. Because if it goes up, you can almost predict an amount of money that's going to leave your credit union based on that rise.
You know what? I want to add one kind of tail thought to that. And that brings us around to relevancy and DeFi. Because as we're talking about, if it's employment changing, inflation's changing, future of work's changing, payments changing, what exactly is the value of a credit union? And, to a greater respect, what is the value of a financial intermediary? And I think that's a space, going back to my earlier message, where when we think about what we do and how we do it, being mission-based organizations, and having that incredible amount of data, more data than, as you've heard me say, than Amazon, holy smokes, there could be something there that there's a new thing to create that could make relevancy incredibly, it could escalate it, I guess is my point.
What was that last word?
Escalate.
Oh, I thought you said confiscalated. I was like, that is a $10 word.
That is a $10 word. Okay,
I don't even know if it is. But let me ask you.
Viscosity. There could be viscosity, but I don't know about that, because I'm not sure if it could. You know what? If we had such a great idea in such a great ecosystem, we could create the viscosity to elevate and modify the entire industry as we know it. Use it in a sentence.
But given what you know about DeFi, do you think that crayons were the original version of DeFi?
Ooh.
It's another one of those, somebody else is capitalizing on a concept that's been there a while.
Ooh,
weren't people looking for some other way to get loans outside of the mechanism that was there? You go back to Raiffeisen in Germany or Austria. And so isn't this just more of the same?
So can we continue it on? You're just saying, is this the next evolution?
Right, but yet our GDP just plods along every year at the same amount. So how do we get that story out? And my sense is the only way is they got to circle up the wagons, or have Mike Lawson do one of his shows on it on his CU broadcast, like House of Credit Union Cards or Stranger Credit Union things, something like that.
That can be arranged.
House of Credit Union Cards. I like that one.
Yeah, House of Debit Cards. That's a good one.
House of debit cards.
Well,
House of
this
Credit
kinda
Cards.
This ties back into another, I'm actually working on something I'm going to be posting in the next week or so to the big blog. And it ties to another topic that really ties into what we're talking about. A big story this year in my mind was the Great Resignation, as everybody's calling it, which to me is exactly to your point, John. I think a lot of these folks have discovered that, particularly at the lower end of the wage scale, if you've got the flexibility to do things in a gig economy basis, well, why the heck not? So kind of the headline I'm toying with on this one is the Great Resignation. Be careful what you wish for, because the logic has been for a long time that the economy is going great when people have the confidence to leave their jobs because they know they can get another one. Well, that kind of seems to be what's happening. It's just not the other job that the traditional labor force is expecting them or wants them to take. So it again, the whole thing, and that again, the gig economy and DeFi and everything else means a whole new set of requirements and needs that credit unions have to make sure that they step forward to fill.
Yeah, I mean, but the question I have is, are we as credit unions set up to serve the gig worker? And my answer is, I don't think so. I think if you're a gig worker, it makes it difficult to get a loan. Go ahead, John.
I think we could be there really fast. I'm thinking about small business lending and small business banking. We should be there. We should own that space.
And that's exactly where things like
Main Street just moved to this office. It's not down at Main Street. It's now here.
Behind the dumpster there.
Services we need to get the garage up and running really good and get me out of my dumpster. So
that's it. It's the specific needs of a niche business, a gig economy worker, that gives you the opportunity to kind of stand that up as a credit union within a credit union.
Well, Glenn, there's a great business out there called MBO Partners, and it's for gig workers that are white collar. And they have a platform that is organized to get that group to work anywhere in the United States and appreciating laws and different things that happen. They're the broker to make it happen. So it is already happening on a pretty big scale.
Mike, I see your comment.
The model, we just haven't owned that it is happening right now. Yeah.
Mike, I saw your comment in the chat that people are, resigning at all levels, and that's true as well. And then you get back, we started talking about cyber and things like that. I mean, there's just some skill sets that are just short in the marketplace. And then, the last thing you want is for those people to quit, or they quit and they wind up, syndicating themselves so they can serve 3 different clients at once, probably at a higher price point.
Yeah, well, it's a different mindset of the executive teams now when you need to get that talent, about how you treat that talent, how you work with it, how you let them work virtually, how they're more like free agents now. So how do you get them engaged in your organization is a big culture shift, for the C-suite. We really need to get our head around that, because the war for talent is only going to get tougher. Yeah.
And that brings you to that whole workplace balance. Like how do we function with work, right? The future of work, what does that look like? Does that actually look like, no, you do not need to be connected to your device all the time, or at least to the work portion of your device all the time? I mean, it allows us to really rethink what is the function of work. And are credit unions a much better place to be employed at, because they might be giving you more balance?
Yeah, the numbers just show that, the number of hours people work has just continued to escalate over time. And with work from home, that line blurs. So I don't even think people are properly capturing the work they're doing. I know my daughter's got that situation now where it is verboten for her to touch email after hour, whatever hour it is, or else, you're violating company policy.
Oh, wow.
Turn it off in some cases. Verboten.
You mean forbidden for everyone that does not speak German, like me. I think that, but I'm going to argue it the other way, which is, not, I think, the argument is, why wouldn't we also look at our workplace balance as a gig opportunity as well? Like, for example, I keep telling, because we've always been hesitant to do that. We don't like to offshore work. We're afraid of these different things. But so we make a position. We got to have someone to do. We can't keep making Sally do the PowerPoints. We got to, or John do the PowerPoints, or God forbid Chris Odie. And so we got to hire a position when there are 10,000 people out there that would do it, do a great job of it, form a relationship with you. But our rules, our culture, most importantly, our culture, prevent us from engaging with that kind of group and that kind of economy
and our regulatory environment.
Right. And I think that if you're going to serve them, it's kind of a, the old Alpo situation, you got to eat your own dog food to understand whether or not it's tasty at all. And that's why John's in the dumpster. Sorry, I had to make that whole path big full circle. But I still think there's a culture shift inside the Korean space that has to happen. And that culture shift is, it's interesting because there are people, I'm going to praise Alan here for a minute. I got an opportunity to speak to him in this board, and he clearly is going to ride the wave of that culture shift. But I also know other Koreans where that culture shift is a strain. And it's not because the leadership doesn't want it. It's because there's middle management. It's tough to move. It's become a big organization. And by the way, the other thing that's happening is as we see more consolidation, where are we at today, John? 4,000 credit unions, somewhere in there. You and I started, we talk about, 26,000 credit unions. It's a long way to fall. That's flying at 26,000 feet down to 4,000. You're getting towards tip top and air, trees here shortly. And that as we consolidate all those cultures, I think what happens is we get what I think is least common denominator of that. So we don't get all the good things. We just get like whatever the most acceptable thing is to the mass, which isn't always the greatest culture shift. And so I worry about that talent piece a lot because of that.
Part of that consolidation is if you look at every dollar a credit union spends, only about 10% is in innovation. So if we keep consolidating down, it's still a 90-10 proposition.
Right.
We need to flip that. We need more money in innovation, more of our talent in the new innovative spaces. Full circle to it's going to be more about partnerships, because you can't build it internally fast enough to keep up. It's going to be through partnerships. And I think, that's where we're heading. Matter of fact, I announce it here on your show. That's what my next book is, my third book. It's going to be about partnerships and how that is the kind of a new competency for organizations.
Tell me you're going to call it how to out partner the competition, because that was something you and I forget which of us said it, but we were just hanging out and it's all about out partnering everyone else. And I thought I think you were working for partners, so it's probably you. But
well, but that goes back to the point you said, John, which is, this is a cooperative, and cooperative means we love to collaborate and cooperate together. And, that is our DNA. And now seems like an incredible opportunity for us to really embrace that.
But our systems need to do that. We need to go a step further. Our systems have to do it. Like, for example, John, if you want to take back my message, we got to make it so that you can integrate with every other system. And it's not just about the third party so you can get business. It's how do you integrate with other cores so that participant loads can go through? How do we integrate? Because right now we have this huge mess of a whole bunch of people with a whole lot of liquidity and not it. But I guarantee you there are people in this country running a credit right now. They're going, I wish I had more liquidity, because people are buying these used cars, at a faster rate. And there's no way to connect those two dots for the industry to create a lift for everyone.
When it snows in Colorado, can we please take that extra water and bring it to the desert?
Please.
Please.
I got bad news about that. We are now in December 1st and it's 69 degrees here. It's the longest it's ever been this warm. As you can see, I'm just in a t-shirt. We've given up. We all went down and threw out our snow stuff, and this is Florida now. So we're
now you've jinxed it. You're going to get 20 feet, and we're going to say thank you because you're going to give us that great water.
We're going to get 20 feet all at once, I think is what's going to happen. But to your point, well, guess what? It's 2:00, and let me just stop. John, give me just a quick step about your next book. Where can we find more information on that? What's going on?
It's going to be about partnerships and ecosystems, that you can't do it on your own. And it's going to be strong ecosystems, and that there's going to be some principles that really good leaders follow to make that happen.
Sweet. Awesome. And where can we find out more about Nimbus? Nimbus.com.
Nimbus.com.
All right. And how can we thrive with you? Where can we
Well,
find
you know what? We really need to get everybody educated up on their data. You need to understand it organizationally. So what is the power your data has? What can you do with it? And fill those enterprise data education gaps. Please reach out to me at ann@annlakethrive.com. You'll find all about the different CPE certified and accredited data education that we can help you, your entire organization, and everybody elevate up so you really can rocket what you're doing.
Awesome. Glenn, nobody cares where you are. Mike, you can be found at See Broadcast, and everyone else. Thank you so much. Actually, if you want to find Glenn, you can just go to big-fittech.com. We love the guy. He's our hero. So thanks everyone. Mike, we'll find out. And thanks for the time today and all the great thinking, and what a great group to be a part of. And so thanks for taking the time.
Excellent show, everybody. Well done.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to
Good
see
to see you.
everybody.
Bye, Mike.
Adios.